674A, 1 through 39 odd. All right, number 1. Where is the cosine of theta equal to negative root 2 over 2 from 0 to 2 pi? So we want to know what is every angle inside a full rotation where the cosine equals negative root 2 over 2. Well, cosine is the x value, so we're looking in quadrants 2 and 3. What angle in quadrant 2 gives me negative root 2 over 2 for the cosine? 3 pi over 4. And then what about this angle in quadrant 3? 5 pi over 4. Are there any others? No, because if I do another rotation, I'm outside of my 2 pi window, so that doesn't work. All right, number 3. The cosecant of theta is equal to negative 2 over 1. Now, I don't like that. I'm going to flip it and say the sine of theta is negative 1/2, and I'm looking from 0 to 4 pi. Okay. In which quadrants is the sine equal to negative 1/2? Would be 3 and 4. So this angle in quadrant 3 is 7 pi over 6. And then this angle in quadrant 4 is 11 pi over 6. But that's only one rotation, and I want to go out to 2 rotations. So I take my first answer of 7 pi over 6, and I go around again. What is 7 pi over 6 plus a full rotation? So you would add 12, 19 pi over 6. Okay. What if I did another rotation? If I added 12/6 to that, I would get 31 pi over 6. Why is 31 pi over 6 not work? It's bigger than 4. Okay, so that didn't work. Now I'm going to take my 11 pi over 6 and go all the way around again. And that creates 23 pi over 6. Does that fit in the window? Yes, because it's less than 4. 23 over 6 is just slightly less than 4. So that works. All right. So number 5, the tangent of theta equals 0. And we're going to look at all real numbers. Well, tangent is the sine over the cosine. So the tangent is 0 whenever the sine is 0. And the sine is 0 at 0 and 180. So 0 and pi. Okay. So my first answer is 0 radians. What else coincides with 0 radians? Well, 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, and so on. Okay. And then what? The other side is pi. What coincides with pi? 3 pi, 5 pi, 7 pi. And it's going to take me forever to write all those down. So instead of writing them all down, I'm going to create a formula that will build them. And I could say 0 plus 2 pi times k, where k is any integer. It could be 1 or 0 or negative 1 or 8 or negative 5. And then I would also have to do pi plus 2 pi k. But I can actually smash those into one formula. Does anybody not understand what those mean? So it says the answer is 0 plus any full rotation or minus any full rotation. That's where the 2 pi k comes in. But since these are half a rotation from each other, you could really just say 0 plus pi k, and that would be your answer. No, pi k, because pi over 2 is a quarter rotation. Pi is a half rotation. All right. Number 7. The sine of 2 theta is equal to negative 1/2 inside of, I'm not going to write it that way, inside of 1 rotation. Yeah? Yeah, and just hold on just a second. All right, so number 7. Where is the sine equal to negative 1/2? Well, we're in quadrants 3 and 4. Right? And those angles are 7 pi over 6 or 11 pi over 6. But those are not the angles I want. 2 pi is equal to this. 2 theta is equal to 7 pi over 6. So to get theta, I divide by 2, which is timesing by 1/2, and I get theta is 7 pi over 12. Okay? Now, I'm making the angle smaller. So if I do another rotation, instead of 7 pi over 6, it would be 19 pi over 6. If I cut that in half, what will I get? 19 pi over 12 is 19 pi over 12 inside the 2 theta window. Is 19 over 12 less than 2? Yes. So 19 pi over 12. Okay. Now let's focus on the other angle. Well, if I did another rotation, would it fit in the window? No, it'd be way too big. Okay. So this angle is 11 pi over 6. And that is equal to 2 theta. So to solve for theta, I divide by 2, and I get 11 pi over 12. Is that inside the window? Yes. Let's try another rotation. What would another rotation give me? 23. That's a beautiful 3. 23 pi over 6. If I cut that in half, I get 23 pi over 12. Is that in the window? Yes. Now, if I did another rotation, it would be too big. It wouldn't fit in the window. So there are 4 angles that I can times by 2 and get the ratio of negative 1/2, and those angles fit inside a full rotation. Okay, and then we got to do number 9. The sine of theta over 2 is negative 1/2, and we're going to go for all real numbers. So sine is equal to negative 1/2 in quadrants 3 and 4. This angle is 7 pi over 6, and this angle is 11 pi over 6. Okay, but I need to set those equal to pi over 2. So I need to multiply by 2. So theta is 7 pi over 3, or it's 14 over 6, which simplifies to be 7 over 3. And then the other one is 22 over 6, which simplifies to be 11 pi over 3. Okay. So the answers are 7 pi over 3 and 11 pi over 3. Okay. What would the next angle be that lands in the same place to create the negative 1/2? So do we add 2 pi to these? Well, we multiplied by 2, so instead of 2 pi, we need to add 4 pi. Because does this fit inside one rotation? No, 7 pi over 3 is 3, 6, 9. So 7 is right, oops, yeah, right there in quadrant 1 after a full rotation. So it's going to be 7 pi over 3 plus 4 pi k. And the other one is going to be 11 pi over 3 plus 4 pi k. Okay. Cade, which one did you want? All right. So in the next set, you always want to stay between these. So equal to on the left, not equal to on the right. Okay. So 2 sine of theta, of 2 theta, is equal to the square root of 3. Now this looks a lot harder than it is. I'm going to divide by 2. And I get the sine of 2 theta is equal to root 3 over 2. Where is the sine equal to root 3 over 2? So it's going to be pi over 3 and 2 pi over 3. What am I going to do with those angles? So these are equal. So 2 theta is equal to pi over 3. So I need to divide by 2. So one of my answers is pi over 6. Does that land in the window? Yes. Let's check a full rotation. What is a full rotation greater than pi over 3? 7 pi over 3. So 7 pi over 3. What do I do with that? Divide it by 2, and I get 7 pi over 6. Does that land in the window? Yes. If I did another rotation and divided that by 2, is that going to land in the window? No. Nope. Okay. So now this angle is 2 pi. Oh, I need to write that over here. So pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. This one is 2 pi over 3. Cut that in half. 2 pi over 6, which is pi over 3. Is that in the window? Yes. Now I do a full rotation. What is 2 pi over 3 plus a full rotation? 8 pi over 3, cut that in half. 8 pi over 6 is 8 pi over 6 inside the window. Okay. If I went around again, so 8 pi over 3 plus 2 is going to be 14 pi over 3. Cut that in half. 14 pi over 6 is 14 pi over 6 in one rotation. No, it's not. So those are my 4 answers. So really that second set is just like the first set. You just need to do a little bit of algebra before you get there. All right. Get to work. Any of these